Wrestling fans, I am back here to talk about my top takeaways from Impact Wrestling Rebellion. We're about to hop into the full review basically with my top takeaways. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button if you're listening on YouTube. Follow on Periscope. I'm on Twitter at OMG and at 2SweetPod. That's the number 2, Sweet P-O-D. So we're gonna hop right on into it. The first takeaway is a nice X Division sprint. We had ourselves a multi-man match. Petey Williams versus Jake Chris versus Aiden Prince versus Ace Austin versus Cousin Jake versus Eddie Edwards. And it got going right off the bat. It was a fast match. Arguably, the spot of the match came toward the beginning of the match when Ace Austin went for a tope dive, and he hit the tope dive, but Jake Chris hit a cutter as well, and they landed on everybody. This was a fast matchup. I love the 450 from Aiden Prince. He is a hidden gem. Doesn't get a whole lot of airtime, but I like him. I think he's gonna be really good if they really stick with him in Impact Wrestling. This match, toward the end, Petey Williams hit a Canadian Destroyer, but it would be Ace Austin who would pick up the win. I gotta say that this match didn't get a whole lot of time. I cannot put it in the realm of a really good match because it lasted so short. The match ended right when you felt like, okay, this is really getting good, and it was like, oh man, the match is over. So it was a good enough match. If they would have gave it like 3 or 4 extra minutes, it would have been in the realm of good to really good. I'll get into a match that got enough time that I can put into really good later on in this review. So my next takeaway is that I didn't like it, and on that, it is the Scarlett Bordeaux versus Rohit Raju match. And I gotta say that the only thing I really enjoyed from this match was the Scarlett Bordeaux dive from the top. She landed on the Desi Hit Squad on the outside. Look, here's why I didn't like the match. First of all, this was another match that didn't get time at all. Just a few minutes. I feel like I've already seen this with Scarlett Bordeaux and Disco Inferno. The misogynistic man that doesn't take a woman seriously, and we're gonna throw him in the match with Scarlett Bordeaux, and he's gonna dominate the match, and then Scarlett Bordeaux is gonna hit a few spots at the end and pick up the victory. I didn't want to see that again or Rohit Raju, and that's basically what we got. And Scarlett Bordeaux would pick up the victory. Look, I like Scarlett Bordeaux playing the underachieving, not underachieving, but the face that is trying to get sympathy from the crowd, and she ends up picking up the win. I like that format, but I felt like I pretty much seen it with Disco Inferno, with Joey Ryan, and here it is again, we're seeing it again. So I didn't really like the match overall, and it didn't get time on top of that. Scarlett Bordeaux, however, the right result. Scarlett Bordeaux picks up the victory. I want to see what she can do in the Knockouts division. Let's get her in the Knockouts division. Let's get her a feud going. So moving on, my next takeaway is that the Rascals stole the show. I enjoy these guys so much. It was the Rascals versus Moose and the North. The crowd was behind them. We got some walking weapon chants for Alexander. And the crowd was hot for this match because the action was hot as well. The match really picked up when the Rascals hit some high-paced moves, pretty much on Moose. We got a Wentz cutter, and we had a running Rana as well, which was awesome, from the outside to the inside of the ring. And this was a match that, and I told you that I was going to get to a match that actually got enough time. This was that match. We had a lot of great moments from this match. They did the spot again where Trey tried to go for a Rana on Moose, where he caught him and he leveled him into the barricade. Great spot there. I really enjoyed this match. Probably the spot of the match was Dez jumping off of Alexander onto the pile. of guys, and this was a really good match. The North and Moose would pick up the victory with the spear from Moose, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this matchup. So my next takeaway is the wrong result. We had Taya versus Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts Championship. This got off to a fast start. Jordynne Grace hit a sick apron powerbomb in this one. I really enjoyed the fact that they had some psychology in this matchup. Taya worked over the arm. I can enjoy that as a wrestling fan that loves the psychology and loves to see the way that it comes back at the end of the match. I love that. I thought the match was kind of over when Jordynne Grace hit that muscle buster from the top, but it would be a great near fall to got the crowd into it. At the end of the day, Taya Valkyrie picks up the victory with the Road to Valhalla, and I gotta say, when she won the match, it was like, oh man, this really felt like the spot where, and it was the case for Johnny Impact as well, it was time to get that belt off of Taya. And I have no problems with Taya Valkyrie. I love her character, Wera Loca. I love her wrestling ability inside the ring. I love her as a champion. But at this point, it's like, where do they go next? Like, who is the next competitor for Taya Valkyrie at this point? With Jordynne Grace, the obvious next place to go was Tessa Blanchard, and they could have wrestled over that title for the next few months as we head into Slammiversary. But here it is, Taya Valkyrie retains the title, and I gotta say that I'm not all that thrilled with it. So my next takeaway is that it was a brutal match. Rich Swann versus Sami Callihan, and it was OVE rules. And like, I love this match. This was a string, like this started the string of great matches on this pay-per-view. And like, it was hot and heavy early. We got a stapler to the mouth from Rich Swann to Sami Callihan. A lot of spots in this match. Sick Cactus Jack power driver on the apron from Sami Callihan. And a lot of things going on in this match. I think the spot, well, the second best spot of the match was the power driver on the freaking railing from Sami Callihan. The spot of the match is when we got the Legos. I went on Twitter and I typed, oh man, we got Legos, and we got ourselves a power driver on the Legos, for goodness sake. And that wasn't even the end of the match. Rich Swann would pick up the win with the barbed wire crossface. Sami Callihan would go on to tap out, and I gotta say that was a sick finishing maneuver. The last time I saw something like that, Daniel Bryan, I think, pulled it out on Randy Orton, and he had a kendo stick, and he had the kendo stick in Randy Orton's face. That was a sick maneuver, and that was a sick ending for Rich Swann as well. I gotta be honest, I really wanted to see Sami Callihan pick up the victory. I wanted him to take everything from Rich Swann. That was the storyline heading into this match. I gotta say that I stand by that this was the best built matchup heading into this pay-per-view, and it was a phenomenal matchup. Rich Swann picks up the win. I don't have any problems with that as all. Rich Swann, there's a lot for him to do in the X division, but I would have liked to have seen Sami Callihan pulled it up. My next takeaway is banger. That's what I have written down here. Tessa Blanchard versus Gail Kim, and I loved every bit of this match. Tessa Blanchard is just so violent. I'm gonna get to that later. She hit a nice low pay in this match. Early in this match, vicious low pay, vicious cold breaker in the corner. She made that look good as well. She moves so fast and violent. That's what I got written down here. It doesn't matter what she is doing. Like, Gail Kim can be sitting down. She can place Gail Kim sitting down on the mat, and she can just be going for a forearm shiver. She moves fast and violently into that forearm shiver, and that is another thing, excuse me, that sets her apart from the ladies, not just in Impact Wrestling, just everywhere across the world. She moves so fast and violently. I love her ring work. So moving back into the match, Gail Kim, man, I gotta say that she had no ring rust whatsoever. I won't put it on this level, but it was the first thing that I thought about. Like, it reminded me of when Shawn Michaels came back to that SummerSlam, like, against Triple H. And it was like, okay, he's been out of the ring for however many years now. He's going to have ring rust. Like, what's going to happen? And Shawn Michaels had no ring rust whatsoever. That was Gail Kim last night. And she put on a show with Tessa Blanchard. She had a fantastic crossbody. She even put out the figure 4 on the ring post. And I was like, oh, man, the old Gail Kim is back. And spot of the match was when Tessa Blanchard went for the Glam Slam. They were on the stage and she flipped Gail Kim on the floor, and it's like, oh my goodness, Gail is dead. But it turned out that Gail Kim would be just fine. At the end of the day, Tessa Blanchard picks up the win with the code breaker from the super code breaker from the top rope. And I gotta say that we got to the post match, and on one hand I liked it, and on the other hand, I did not like it. Like, on the one hand that I did like, I understand what Gail Kim means to wrestling. She is the person that, in my opinion, started the women's revolution. That's just my opinion. Women started getting taken seriously when it was Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong. That's just my opinion. And she fights for the women. She has been fighting for years for the women to be taken seriously. And I understand what Tessa Blanchard stands for. The best overall women's wrestler on the planet. I've said it for years, I've said it for months, and I'll continue to say it again. And she is at the top in Impact. Like, she doesn't have the title, but she is the best in Impact. And that embrace from Gail Kim to Tessa Blanchard is like a passing of the torch. Like, you take it now. And it almost choked me up. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. It was a great moment, but there was an other hand that I did not like this moment, because sometimes I have a tough time separating the real from kayfabe, and here it was. This was a very personal feud. Like, Gail hated Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard hated Gail. She went looking for a husband in a restaurant, and it's tough because in kayfabe, like, they should just really hate each other. I was waiting for Tessa Blanchard to lay Gail Kim out. I promise I was waiting for it until Tessa Blanchard got out of the ring, and I was like, oh, okay, she's not gonna lay her out. She's not gonna beat it down. And it's tough to separate real from storyline. So I liked it and I didn't like it at the same time. Gail Kim got a nice send-off from the crowd. So my next takeaway is an missed opportunity. Johnny Impact versus Brian Cage. Here it was. And it was pretty obvious that, you know what, it is time to put the title on Brian Cage. There is no more messing around. Put the title on the guy. And we got a fast start. And they did the deal to where it looked like Brian Cage was going to pick up the victory on a squash pretty much. And the crowd didn't really get into it because here's my theory on it. Brian Cage has a lot of finishers. So when he went up for the F5, that should have got the crowd going. But since he has a lot of finishers, that didn't get the crowd really into it. I knew, you know, if you watch Impact every single week, you know that's pretty much one of Brian Cage's finishes. But it's not like if P.D. Williams would have hit the Canadian Destroyer at the beginning of the match, I think the entire crowd would have been like, okay, it's probably over. So the crowd didn't really get into it for that near fall, but the crowd was pretty much into it throughout the match. Spot of the night was the Spanish Fly from Johnny Impact. I think that landed on it was from the stage to the floor. Brian Cage actually suffered a serious injury from that. He was in the hospital. Unfortunately, I hate to see that happen to that guy. I hate to see that happen to any wrestler in general, but a guy that got crowned that night, I hate to see that happen to him. But we had some extra stuff in this match. They suffered the same fate as their homecoming match, and by they I mean Johnny Impact and Brian Cage. Excellent match, possible match of the year candidate with the technical back and forth that they had going, but there was just too much extra at the end of the match. We had Taya get involved. We had Johnny Bravo getting involved. And it really took away from the match in my opinion. Here's what should have happened. I hate to fantasy book because I'm not here to say that I know more than the people that's running this stuff backstage, because I don't. I think that, okay, if you want to have Taya and Johnny Bravo get involved, you can have them get involved in some way, but you have Lance Storm give him the old referee, you're out of here, and then it gets down to a one-on-one match. Other than that, I don't like all of the extra stuff. Here's what saved it, why it wasn't exactly like Homecoming. We got the right doing result. Brian Cage picks up the victory, and he is the man. We'll see what happens. The guy's injured. We'll see to what extent going forward. There hasn't been many updates on it. I'll see going forward as the weeks go on. I gotta say, one thing that I did like about, another thing, that I did like about the match was Lance Storm let him fight. And, he wasn't about to count him out. He wasn't about to call a DQ. He tried to at the end, but Brian Cage stopped him. And he just let him fight. He let it get violent. So I did like that about the match as well. Post-match, Michael Elgin comes down. He gets in Brian Cage's face. And he lays him out. So, if you want to have a guy come in, you want to have him be taken seriously, have him lay out the champion. I have no problems with it. Depending on where this goes throughout the weeks, I would have saved that for an episode of Impact. That's just me. But I don't have any real problems with it. Michael Elgin has his baggage that comes along with him. He definitely has that. We'll see how it all turns out going forward. But he has some baggage coming in with him. And we'll see how it turns out. But moving on to the main event, and the last takeaway, a match of the year candidate. Lucha Brothers versus LAX. I like to keep it short on the spots that I go through, but there were so many spots in this match that felt really big. So bear with me here. It all started at the beginning of the match. Topes from the Lucha Brothers through the tables on the outside. And this was a fast match throughout. It was we pretty much reached the point toward the end of the pay-per-view to where I was like, okay, the Lucha Brothers versus LAX has to be what I think it's going to be for us to remember this as a good pay-per-view. Because all the way up until that point, we had the Fantastic World title match, but we had the extra stuff at the end. It's like, okay, this match in the main event spot has to deliver like we think it will, and boy did it ever. I think it surpassed everyone's expectations. So we had plenty of spots in this match that I love. The LAX double stomp and cutter through the chair was phenomenal. I love that spot. We had a sit-off. We had forks involved. As I take a breath right there, excuse me. And the double stomp fear factor through the litany of chairs set up by the Lucha Brothers, that was phenomenal as well. But probably the spot of the match, the darned Spanish fly through the tables. Man, and Phoenix, here's the thing. I seen the spot and I was like, oh my goodness, what a spot. That was excellent. But once the pay-per-view was over, I looked at the spot again. Phoenix came down on his head. Like, he didn't even make the flip all the way. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hope Phoenix all right. This guy consistently gets injured with these spots. And I just hope the guy's okay overall. The ending spot was phenomenal as well. The power bomb from the ladder on the table with tacks on it, as LAX would go on to pick up the victory. Look, man, this was a phenomenal matchup. I loved every single bit of it. It was great and everything I expected it to be. If this is the end of LAX versus the Lucha Bros in Impact Wrestling, then I gotta give it a hand, because it has been an excellent feud. And we'll see with the tag team division. There's a lot of different ways that they can go with this division. A lot of talent spread across. LAX and Lucha Bros can go a lot of different ways. We'll see how it all turns out. I gotta say that I didn't really like the handshake at the end of the match. This was a personal feud. Like I just said with Gail Kim and Tessa Blanchard, I have a tough time separating kayfabe from, you know, real life things at times, and especially when things are personal in kayfabe. Like this thing with LAX and Lucha Bros got personal, and I just have a tough time with them seeing them handshake at the end of the match. I don't have a huge problem with it, but I do have a tough time with it. Overall, I love the match, and overall, my overall take on the pay-per-view was this was a really good pay-per-view. Towards the beginning, I think adding the extra matches to me, it took away from the theory that I had that every match was a possible match of the night candidate. But overall, there was a whole lot more good than there was bad, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like the pay-per-view really flew by. Like, it got to around the last hour and a half or so, and it's like, well, man, this is flying by. There's only like 3 or 4 matches left, and the main matches that you really felt that could be match of the night candidates, they really came through, and I enjoyed myself. I think overall it was a good showing for Impact Wrestling, and overall, on the basis of fans of social media, I think we all enjoyed it, outside of people that was watching Game of Thrones. I mean, there was some crazy stuff that went down on there apparently as well, but I loved it. Let me know your thoughts on Impact Wrestling Rebellion, whether you liked it, loved it, or didn't love it, whether it's on Twitter at 2SweetPod, that's the number 2, SweetPod, or at OMGCoreyB, or in the YouTube comments. Let me know your thoughts.